begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Our meeting of January 13th to order. At this meeting, the commission will hold hearings on notices of intent, requests for determination of applicability. The commission will also be voting on decisions and taking up other business. No hearing times have been assigned to the specific agenda items, and the commission will take them up in the order they are listed. Discussion and action items may be taken up at any time. In accordance with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Order suspending provisions of the open meeting law, we are conducting this meeting online. The commission welcomes participation in the meeting by the applicants and general public. Attending the meeting tonight are the 7 Conservation Commission members: Eric Foley, Margaret Wheeler, Jim Gazzo, Ann Jeffries, Marilyn Frank, Noel Donovan, and Peter Mahler, and the Conservation Resource Planner, Matt Salem. This meeting is being recorded by Westford Cable Access TV. We respectfully ask that everyone mute their computer microphones and phones when they are not in use to avoid unnecessary noise during the meeting. This is an open meeting, so for all the panelists who have access to the chat panel, please only use chat for technical issues related to the video conferencing. The commission will proceed by opening the agenda items, having the applicant or their representative present the project, or if previously opened in a public meeting, they will provide a brief summary of the project. The commission and staff will follow with questions, and then we'll open it up to the public for questions and comments. At this point, if you wish to participate, you will raise your hand and your microphone will be unmuted for you to participate. Due to the limitations of the platform, attendees that are accessing the meeting via the telephone number at the top of the agenda will only be able to listen to the proceedings and will not be able to contribute. Please access the video conference via the link on the agenda, even if you do not have a webcam to participate. I'll now take a roll call. Eric?
Here.
Marilyn?
Here.
Margaret?
Here.
Jim?
Here.
Joelle?
Here.
Ian?
Here.
Peter here. Okay, we're going to go to our first agenda, which is open forum. The members of the commission have anything for open forum?
So, Peter, as was mentioning earlier, and Jim, you probably noticed it as well, the forest management plan that MIT has for the Keyes Road parcel. Did you look at that, Jim?
I just skimmed through it. Why?
Okay, my only concern is, and I had no other concern with the plan, right along Keyes Road, there's a couple of very, very old foundations that probably from an early time in Westford's history. And I'm wondering if there's a way that they can keep their skid roads away enough to preserve those 2 foundations that are right along Keyes Road.
I'm sure if we have to mention them to them, they'll be able to do that.
Yeah.
So who's going to connect?
So we can send them a letter. You want to draft it, Eric, and have Matt send it to him?
Yeah, I'll put something in an email and send it to Matt.
Okay, sounds good.
You know, and then he can forward it along.
Yeah, great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, Matt, do you have stuff for open forum?
I do, Mr. Chair. First, the select board approved the lease agreement with Teamworks last night at their meeting. Also, we've requested council for an opinion regarding restricting parking at the Stony Brook Conservation Area, and I hope to have that by for the next meeting. Working on an RFP with the project procurement specialist in the town manager's office for the Hill Orchard manager. That the current contract, or the current contract expires in April. We've had a couple encroachment issues have been brought to my attention in the Chestnut Hill Estates conservation restriction, and I'll have more, and we'll update the commission at the next meeting as well. And lastly, the applicant has requested the public hearing for 44 Lawson Road be continued to February 24th, as they've had some personal issues, and we can take that up during the agenda item.
Okay. That it? Do we have any Any questions from the audience on open forum? Any issues want to be brought up?
I don't see anything, Mr. Chair.
Okay. All right. Then we'll move on to our first agenda item, which is a public hearing for Lovett, 68 Carlisle Road. Under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, Wetlands Protection Act, Wetlands Non-Zoning Wetlands Bylaw, Chapter 171. Westford Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, January 13th, 2021 at 7:30 p.m. via remote participation to consider requests for determination of applicability filed by Peter and Heidi Lovitz for the removal of downed trees and standing broken trunks within 100 feet of the jurisdictional wetland at 68 Carlisle Road, Assessors Map 12, parcel 100. Welcome.
Good evening. So has everyone had a chance to read through this, or should I go through it?
Just identify yourself first.
Oh, sure. Peter Lovitz.
Okay, Peter. Yep, you can go ahead. Give a short presentation if you want.
Yeah. So first of all, Matt has been wonderful during this process. Great guy and really helped guide me through the process. So we're on the end of Carlisle Road right near the little white schoolhouse, and there's wetlands that separate us between us and the schoolhouse. So I'm sure you're familiar with the area. We have been here about 20 years, and we have these wonderful large willows that align our property, or did align our property, to the wetlands. Over the course of a few years, the willows keep on breaking, as willows are very not sturdy trees. So during the storm in October, we probably lost 2, 3, or 4, we're not sure how many, because we had lost others over time, large parts of the tree that fell into the wetlands or right along the wetlands. So I approached Matt and to find out what we could do from there. So he came out and said that because the trees fell into the wetlands, that they could not tell me that I could take them out, do anything with them right away, and I would have to come in front of you guys and ask permission. So I've contacted 2 landscaping companies, both of which said that they can use a crane from the driveway, go in, pick up the limb, which are really big, bring them out and cut them down into proper sizes and get rid of them. I love the firewood, but as you know, willow is not really good for burning. And then from there, we may try to plant, if able, something small to grow along the wetlands for the future. And that's really all I have to say. And I'm looking for you guys to approve us going in and grabbing as much as we can from the trees that have fallen. And then lastly, what to do with the actual bottom of the tree that's still in the ground, whether we can remove it or whether we can cut it down to so we can't see it. I'm sure that the roots of those trees go into the wetlands. I have no question about, based on where they're located, that there's no choice but that they would have to go into the wetlands.
Well, we do like standing stags. They make a wonderful home to a vast variety of wildlife.
That's what Matt said. So,
well,
so that's where I am. And
how high up? How high up are the stags?
Some of them are probably 15 to 20 feet, and I would say 15 to 20 feet. What's left, and they're really just the bottom of these trees. The rest of them are into the wetlands. A few years back, we had a tree fall the other way, and we dealt with it on, because it was totally on our property. I think we contacted you guys, and because it had landed towards the house, we didn't have to contact you. And as you see, we have wonderful gardens here from Fresh Garden, and we have 3 large beds back there. So we do care about it, and we also now have 2 compost bins right below the deck. So we have one that's ready to become wonderful fertilizer for our garden next year, and the other one is about half full.
Comments from the commission members?
Peter?
Yeah, Eric?
Typically in the past, if it's actually fallen in the resource area, the wetland, if it's a tree, more of the times than not, we've had them leave it in the wetland because it provides additional wetland habitat and actual, additional value to the wetland resource. So going in and removing everything out of the actual wetland itself, I don't know, without looking at it further, would be something that, typically I don't think we would do.
So we're not looking to remove anything but the limb itself. And the companies that we've spoken to have said that they can go in, and they have skilled people that will go in, won't even be in the wetlands. They'll be in the air. They'll be able to wrap underneath, and they'll be able to pull out this tree without endangering anything else that's in the wetlands.
Well, I read the one from New England Tree Masters that was submitted, and I've actually had them give me a quote as well, so I'm familiar with the company. When I had dealt with them in the past, there had been communication issue. And, when I was looking at it, what you're describing and being very selective, but when folks going out there and they're cleaning up an area, you might find the area being, pretty much sanitized of anything that's fallen in that resource area. And that somewhat concerns me.
Absolutely not. We're only going in for the trees themselves, the large part of the tree. We have no intention of endangering what's in there. We love the crickets that come out in the spring. When I first moved into the house, I called my dad the first spring night, and I put the phone up. I said, "Dad, I don't know what the hell this is," and the noise went, like it was. So I totally understand your concern, and that is not our intention. And because of COVID, especially right now, we will be home when they do this, and I will make sure that they only take out what we agree to and what I instruct them to do. Because at $900 a pull, I am not having them take out anything that is not.
All I can say is I can't tell you how many times we've had more trees taken than not, or things being more aggressive because there was miscommunication or somebody not being home at the time that, the activity occurred. I
promise you that my wife or I will be here. They will not be here unsupervised. My wife works out of the house, so even if COVID was over, she works out of the house. She's here 24/7. So even if I wasn't here, she would be here, and she would make sure that if you agreed to this, that they take out only the large items.
Jim?
Yeah, so I have a question. These trees, are the base of the trees, the trunk in the wetlands also? The whole tree is, or
No,
is
the trunk of the tree is on my property.
Or have they're all on your property. I can see the property line. But did the trees fall from your yard into the wetlands, or are they they grew in the wetlands, they died in the wetlands, they fell over the wetlands?
So the trees that are in question were bordering the wetlands, and they fell into the wetlands.
Okay,
so that was
everything.
That big storm in October is what really did the bulk of the bulk. It was, like I said, we had other ones fall before. So to identify which ones fell with this storm, I can narrow it pretty well down, but there may be one from the past that I didn't see before. So I can't tell you 100% honest, exactly.
These trees aren't reducing your usable yard area or anything like that.
The No, but it is gonna affect the resale value. And that's the major concern, that from the kitchen, from the deck, you can see these trees at where they've fallen. One of them is right on, the beginning of the wetland. So it's a property value issue. If it wasn't a property value issue, we did not plant these trees. These trees, when we bought, these trees were here. So we've had to deal with these willows all along.
Margaret?
Peter, could you clarify? You're talking about the trees falling over, but then you talk about snags. Did the entire tree fall over, or did a portion of it break off in the storm?
I would say more than a portion, but not the entire tree.
Okay.
So it's like let's say this was as tall. Let's say this was as tall as the tree was. There's now maybe this much left, but this much fell in. So it's definitely to go to sell the house with these large pieces of limb that are just bordering just outside the wetlands is definitely going to detract from the resale value.
So you're saying that basically the trunk snapped at some point in the top part, just
Correct. Yes.
okay.
I think I'm understanding how these things are laid out, and I'm okay with cutting and removing anything that's in the yard area. If it fell from the edge of the wetland in that area, in the area of the yard towards it, I think we ought to be leaving the stuff that's in the wetlands where it is. But if there's stuff in his yard that had broken and fallen towards the wetland, I'm okay with removing the part that's in the yard, but not in the wetlands.
But if you cut it halfway, then what's cut is going to fall into the wetlands. Right now, it's up high. So I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to take out. Let's say it's 30 feet. I'm happy to take 10 and let the other 20 fall. But I think that's worse because then you're going to fall on top of stuff that's already growing. I would think that you want the stuff that's already growing to have a chance to grow. There's wonderful flowers that come up in there. So if you let it fall, then you're defeating your own purpose.
So Peter, to clarify that, you've got the tree and the trunk snaps. Did it dislodge? Where it snapped, did the top of the tree completely disconnect from the trunk?
There are clean breaks, yes.
Okay. And you're asking to get rid of the part that fell into the wetlands. I think you had also mentioned with the part of the trunk that's still attached to the ground. You had talked about potentially being able to cut that off at ground level and remove that portion of the trunk.
If you agree to it, if you want to leave it for the birds or whatever, I don't love it, but I'm not opposed to it.
So Jim,
I understand how you want to preserve it, and I appreciate that. So I'm not opposed to leaving what's left standing, if that's what you guys decide.
So Jim, the comment you were making, were you talking about the part of the trunk that's still standing in his yard outside the wetland, allowing him to take that off at the ground and remove that piece of it?
I'd be okay with that. I don't want anybody going into the wetland and pulling out either tree trunks or broken branches. Leave that stuff where it is. I would want.
In the past, we have allowed some folks to go into the wetland and cut the log and limbs such that, we still left it there to provide the habitat, but we cut it so it would be less obtrusive, less visible, but we never removed it. I remember doing that at West Tech Park East.
Yeah, that was the last time, Eric. I think you're right.
Right. So if we were able to get it so that we can't see it, that's fine. But right now it's fully visible. And there's also some that are technically in our property, but not in the wetlands. So there's some that fell directly into the wetlands. And then there's some that was right on the border, So, that's where we're gonna need to have a decision.
Well, I mean, I don't have a problem with you removing the ones that are along the edge as long as they're partially on your property. But as Eric said, I mean, generally we leave stuff that falls into the wetland, we just leave it there.
But it's not, it's hovering over the wetlands. It's not like, because it hasn't fallen all the way in yet. So that's why it's visible. If it fell to the ground, we wouldn't see it because all the vegetation would be around it. Matt was there. Matt can maybe talk to this. There's a lot of visibility here, and that's the concern.
Yes, so the crown of the tree is what's toppled into the wetland. So I don't, the trunk leading up to the crown is what's, I do understand what Mr. Levitt's saying. And the branches of the crown are supporting the trunk. So it hasn't, and so leaving it in place, will be, it would end up being lower to ground level. So I think that's, Mr. Levitz, correct me if I'm wrong, if that's, the.
Right. And
So
leaving it where it is going to detract from the property value, which I know you guys don't want to do.
No,
Yeah,
not necessarily saying that, but we simply, it's for wetland habitat issue. By taking those snags and that wood out of there, we're decreasing places for, the things that live in the wetland, that's where they would live, and as that decays, that's providing more food and habitat. So when you remove that, you're decreasing the functionality and the value of the resource area. Now, I hear what you're saying. In that, hey, I'm looking out just from my back window or side window, and it's unsightly, and I'm thinking it's going to decrease my property value. And that's why I'm wondering, Matt, is there a way that this can be like trimmed down and left in the wetland? What's in the wetland there?
I can go if I'd be more than happy to take a site visit and actually go. Carol and I didn't leave the lawn when we did the site visit, but I can be more than happy to trek in and see what the distance is between the trunk and what the delta is. So at that time, would the trunk and be actually not be visible, or the portion of the tree that is in the wetland not be visible anymore.
Okay, so why don't you plan on doing that? And we'll continue this to our next meeting. You'll go out and meet with Peter and see what we can do with it.
Well, and I think it'll be very helpful if we had some kind of ground level pictures, pictures taken from standing in the lawn, because right now I think we're all trying to imagine it in our minds, and we've probably got very different images. So I think, having a picture of what it looks like can help the discussion.
Okay. Matt and I can work on that.
Certainly.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Any comments from the audience on this? I don't see any raised hands.
No,
Okay,
go ahead.
so
So the next meeting is in February?
no, it's the 27th of January.
Okay. So Matt, call me, email me, and we'll make a time to come out and you can take pictures, and we'll come back on the 27th.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so can I have a motion?
Yeah, again, we want to work with you guys as much as you want to work with us. We want to do it right, and at the same time, we want to make sure that it's visibly attractive to a potential buyer down the road.
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
Fantastic.
Can I have a motion to continue this to January 27th at 7:30?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, Eric,
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes.
Margaret,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Noel,
Yes.
and
Yes.
Peter, yes. All right, Peter, thank you. We'll see you in a
Matt,
couple of
we'll
weeks.
be in
Thank you.
contact. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, we're going to move on to our next agenda item, which is a public hearing for Devlin, 10 Tadmuck Road. This is a legal notice under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131 and Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, Wetlands Non-Zoning Wetlands Bylaw, Chapter 171. Westford Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, January 13th, 2021 at 7:30 p.m. via remote participation to consider a request for determination of applicability filed by Virginia Devlin for the abandonment of the existing field septic tank and leaching area and installation of the replacement sewage disposal system within 100 feet of a jurisdictional wetland at 10 Tagmut Lane. Assessors map 27, parcel 192. Welcome.
Hey, can you hear me okay?
Yep, we can.
We can.
Alright, my name is Ian Ainsley. I am an engineer representing the homeowner. So this is an existing dwelling on Tadmuck Lane, not to be confused with Tadmuck Road. The septic system has failed, both the leach field and the septic tank. We are proposing to replace these with no increase in flow, just a replacement essentially. We are moving the field further away. So right now the existing field is probably 35 feet from the wetland right now, and we are moving it to be 81 feet away. We are also putting in a septic tank and pump chamber kind of in the back near the house. The existing tank is underneath the back deck right now, and we kind of don't want to touch that and rip up the deck. So that's why we've put those two chambers kind of immediately behind the house. There's a 10-foot offset in Title V, the septic design guidelines.
Yeah.
So we've gotten that as close to the house as we can. The closest point from the pump chamber, which is the closer of the two to the wetland, is 51 feet. So in the Westford bylaw, I believe there's a provision that septic systems cannot be located within the buffer zone, but there is an exception if you are replacing a system that is already in the buffer zone, serving a structure before 1994, I believe, and you're not increasing the flow, which is the situation here. We've tried to kind of place the system as far away from the wetland as we can, kind of in the front yard there. Almost all of the property is within the 100-foot buffer. There's a small corner kind of in the front right if you're looking at the property from the street, but there is a water service down there, which would probably be too close to the system, you know, once you put in the offsets from the property line and the house and all that. So this is kind of one of the only places on the site that it can really go and fit. We did kind of looking at sliding it over to the left if you're looking at it from the street, but the soil testing was not so great over there. So this is kind of the sweet spot for the, you know, furthest away from the wetland and a system design that works. There is no,
yeah.
What was that? My last point was just going to be, this is all work that is in existing lawn area already. We're not proposing to cut down any trees or do anything like that.
Okay, is it fairly flat?
Yeah, it's flat in the front yard. Behind the house, it gets a little bit steep, kind of near the tanks, but the slope doesn't start until you're after where the tanks are going to go.
Questions from the commission on this?
No.
No.
There's no no private wells or anything in the area, right?
There is not. It's town water.
Okay,
So
good.
there was no other places to put the pump chamber.
So you're supposed to, from the house, according to Title V, you're trying to get from the house to the septic tank as quickly as possible. They really want a straight shot from the house to the tank. And generally it's good to kind of put the pump chamber near the tank, both from a disturbance point of view. You don't want to, you know, dig up two different areas, but also because the further along you get away from the tank, the lower that elevation is going to get, and the more you have to pump up to the system vertically.
So basically, you think you've hit your sweet spot as far as maximum feasible compliance is concerned?
Essentially, yes. Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, any other questions from the commission? Any questions from the audience on this application? I don't see any, so can we have a conditional negative?
So moved.
Second,
All in favor? Eric,
yes.
Marilyn,
Yes.
Margaret,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Noel,
Yes.
Ian,
Yes.
and Peter, yes.
Mr. Chair, if I could
Yep.
interrupt, who made the motion and second on that?
Motion made.
I seconded
Eric,
it.
second.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second,
All in favor? Eric,
yes.
Marilyn,
Yes.
Margaret,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Noel,
Yes.
Ian,
Yes.
and Peter, yes. Okay, you're all set.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to our next agenda item, which is a public hearing for Bell 53 North Street. This is a legal notice under Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, Wetlands Protection Act, Wetlands Non-Zoning, Wetlands Bylaw, Chapter 171. Westford Conservation will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, January 13th, 2021 at 7:30 p.m. via remote participation to consider a request for determination of applicability filed by Dion Bell for the removal of 14 trees within 100 feet of a jurisdictional wetland at 53 North Street, Assessors Map 35, Parcel 73. Okay, you're welcome.
Ms. Bell, you're still muted. There
Muted.
should be a red microphone on your top right to unmute.
There we go.
Awesome.
Pardon me. Okay, so I don't know if you got a chance to read the document.
Good.
Mhm.
Yeah, we had to have read the documents, so.
Okay, so essentially this is removal of 14 trees. Almost all of them are dead. And they're in danger of falling on buildings. So there's a couple that are in danger of falling on the power lines, but the rest would fall on buildings. My neighbor's house, Roger Hall at 51 B, or my house. So you can see here the little black dots try to show you where the trees are located. And this creek, which is a runoff, goes far back into my property, which is about halfway back is wetland, and there's a little pond back there that belongs to the Halls. And there are very many snags. And there are also many more dead trees that I am not planning on doing anything with and just letting them fall. So do you have any questions?
Matt, have you gone out and looked at the site?
Yes, I was able to go out and look at the site. As Ms. Bell mentioned in her letter, in the narrative, I think it was 11 alders, one white pine that grew right next to her driveway and is encroaching over her, or it's encroaching into her driveway. And I forget what the last was.
I can tell you. So there's a very spindly, it's actually right on the blue line. A very spindly, tall, leaning maple. It's leaning at about, I don't know, like a 30-degree angle because it's not getting much sun. And the Halls were hoping to have that removed. And indeed, if it were to fall, it's leaning right towards their house. So that was one that they really hoped to remove. And then there's also a soft pine tree. That's the other one that's live. It's a very big soft pine tree. that, in a storm, it would be likely to fall because of its weak root system. And that would fall on their house as well.
Miss Bell, you mentioned during conversations that you were planning on letting the stumps remain. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Well, it's a lot of trees, and since 3 of them are live, we generally, if you're taking down live trees, we like to see an equal number replanted of some kind of native species.
Yeah, so I put in my document that on the side towards towards my house, right next to the creek, I've put in a whole lot of habitat and plantings. Mountain laurel, summer sweet, rhododendrons, azaleas, some very huge red twig dogwood, and there's a maple tree already planted on my side of the creek that, of course, I want to leave alone. It's a really pretty maple tree. So I'm not sure about planting because that spot doesn't get very much light, which is why the trees there that are dead are very tall and thin, because they've been weak from really not getting a lot of light. So I'm not sure what would do well in that kind of situation.
Well, they did grow into mature trees, so at some point, they did grow. But like I said, we rarely let someone cut down live trees and not replace them. Noelle, you were next in line.
I'm reading here that all but 3 of the trees are dead and in danger of falling on the building. And the next sentence says, these are elms. Are the elm trees still alive?
No, they are evident. They're dead as evidenced by no leaf growth.
Yeah, most elms in the area are dead.
Yeah.
That was my question. If there were live elms, I would be more inclined to keep them.
Tragic.
No.
So my suggestion would be, there are some trees that, well, it doesn't have to be trees. It can also be shrubs. And there are some shrubs that like shade, so they do better when they don't have a lot of sun. So something like sweet pepper bush. So there might be things other than replacing with trees that would do well there.
Yeah, I tried that. Now maybe they'll do a little bit better once the trees are gone, but I tried that kind of plant that likes the shade and actually likes it wetter, and they died because the soil right along that creek is very clayey and stays too wet. So that's why, if you go back to the photo, so that's why on my side of the creek, that's a hill that goes up towards the garage, to the driveway in the garage. And I planted that entire hill with, like I said, mountain laurels, azaleas, summer sweet. Summer sweet especially does well because it has wetter feet. It likes wetter feet than the others. But the stuff I planted right where the trees would be between, that stuff died on me. So I could probably fit a couple more shrubs along the hill. There's still a little bit more room, but I've already got about, I don't know, good 15 or 20 shrubs in that area, which the rabbits love to play in there.
Eric?
Margaret, typically, when we cut a live tree. We want somebody to plant a live tree. So, I'm going to advocate that, if we're cutting live trees, we're going to find, a shade loving tree and we're going to put it back there. We just can't be cutting trees, live trees especially, without replanting a tree in its place. I mean, the reason why you want to remove the trees is because of their size and their leaning, and you feel that they're going to hit your building or hit a neighbor's building and, cause damage. And, if that's the case, I can understand that. But we've got to find, in this case, a shade-loving tree that maybe doesn't grow as tall and plant it in those locations instead.
Okay,
In the locations of the live trees, right?
Yes.
Or okay. And the dead ones, those have been confirmed that they are some of them are threats to the home.
Matt?
well, you can see the locations,
It's hard.
and they're tall enough that they would either hit the little building that's at the end of the driveway, my house, or my neighbor's house. There are plenty more trees that are dead further down that I'm leaving in place, because when they fall, they'll just fall on my yard or they'll fall back further into the forest. And that's fine with me.
Yeah,
'Cause
well,
I-
Matt was out there, so, I mean, we have to rely on Matt since he did the
Yes,
site. visit.
I can confirm they would make it to buildings on both sides of the creek.
Margaret?
Yeah, I would just say, to Eric's point about planting in place, I think there was one live tree that was right next to the driveway, and that's maybe a place where we want it, in the general area, but
An
not
alternate
exactly.
location.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yes,
okay.
we don't want another one right next to the driveway.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. Are we good with this? She's gonna replant 3 trees, right?
Maybe Matt
Okay.
can,
Yeah, any comments
Okay.
from the audience on this application? Okay, seeing none, can I have a conditional negative on this?
so moved.
Second,
All in favor, Eric,
yes.
Marilyn,
Yes,
Margaret,
Yes,
Jim,
Yes.
Noel,
Yes.
Ian,
Yes.
Peter, yes. Motion to close the public hearing.
so moved.
Second,
All in favor, Eric,
yes.
Marilyn,
Yes,
Margaret,
yes,
Jim,
Yes.
Noel,
Yes.
and Ian.
Yes.
And Peter, yes. Okay, Ms. Bell, you're all set. You'll be talking to Matt. He'll get you the proper documentation, so.
Okay, great, thank you.
I'll reach out
Okay.
tomorrow, Ms. Bell.
Okay,
Thank you. Have a good night.
good night.
Okay, we're going to move on to our next agenda item, which is a public hearing for Chunga, 20 Trails End Road. This is a legal notice under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Chapter 40, Wetlands Protection Act, Wetlands Non-Zoning Wetlands Bylaw, Chapter 171. Westford Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, January 13th, 2021 at 7:30 p.m. via remote participation. Consider request for discrimination of applicability filed by Child from Hunger for the construction of a 12-by-6 addition to the southwest corner of the existing dwelling within 100 feet of a jurisdictional wetland at 20 Trails End Road, assesses map 74, parcel 221. I hope I pronounced your name right.
Hello, this is Joseph Orzel. I'm a wetland scientist with Lucas Environmental.
Okay,
I'm here tonight representing the applicant, Charles and Carolyn Chunga. As you had mentioned, we're here tonight to discuss a request for determination of applicability for a 12-by-6 proposed addition to an existing house and a landing and stairs at the same location. The proposed work is located in the outer 25 feet of the 100-foot buffer zone to an inland bank of an intermittent stream. The south portion of the property is developed with the existing house, landscaped areas, lawn, driveway. The northern portion of the property is wooded, generally from the location of the white vinyl fence that's shown on the site plan to the north is a wooded area. The intermittent stream bank was delineated by professional wetland scientists from Lucas Environmental on October 8th of last year. The only resource area observed on the site is the inland bank. The area is in a Zone X area of minimal flood hazard on the FEMA flood map. There are no mapped estimated habitats of rare wildlife or certified or potential vernal pools in the vicinity of the site. The area is not in an ACEC or an ORW, outstanding resource water. The area is, however, in a Mass DEP Zone 2 wellhead protection area, as well as the town of Westford Water Resource District 2. The proposed work is, I mentioned, located in the outer 25 feet of the 100-foot buffer zone. It is located in a previously developed area, part driveway, over an existing stone retaining wall and landscaped area that would meet the definition of an artificial surface under the bylaw. As such, the applicable setbacks are 30 feet for the limit of work from the inland bank and 55 feet for the proposed building structure. As I mentioned, the proposed limit of work is approximately 75 feet from the inland bank, so it meets the setback requirements. The addition is proposed to use helical pier footings, so there will be minimal disturbance of soil during construction. Based on that and the distance from the wetland resource area and the wooded nature of the site along the stream, we don't believe it's necessary to have erosion controls installed, but that's certainly something that the commission could require. Because it's a single-family house project, it is exempt from the Massachusetts stormwater standards. Roof runoff in the addition is proposed to be directed to a crushed stone walkway at the rear of the house, and roof runoff at the front of the addition can be directed to a small area proposed for future plantings adjacent to the house. That, in essence, is what is proposed, and I'm be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
So is the yard flat? I mean, what's the slope going towards the wetland?
Yard is relatively level. Don't know that the topo is actually on here.
Matt, did you go out and look at this?
I did. I did not have any concerns with the, especially where they are using helical piers as
okay.
supports and
Okay.
minimal.
So no erosion control needed. Okay. Questions from the commission?
No.
No, it looks pretty simple. Looks pretty good to me too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
fine.
Yep. Questions from the audience on this application? Okay, seeing none, can I have a motion to accept this as a conditional negative?
So moved.
Second,
All in favor, Eric,
yes.
Marilyn,
Yes.
Margaret,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Noel,
Yes.
and Ian,
Yes.
and Peter, yes. Motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second,
All in favor, Eric,
yes.
Marilyn,
Yes.
Margaret,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Noel,
Yes.
and Ian,
Yes.
And Peter, yes. Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to our next agenda item, which is a continuation of a public hearing from KMR Real Estate LLC at 0 and 19 Hartford Road, excuse me.
Hold on, bear with me one moment, Mr. Chair, while I promote the numerous people in the audience for this.
Okay.
Good evening. This is Mark Slager from Allen Engineering, here on behalf of KMR Real Estate LLC. Since the last meeting, we've had I've got some stuff popping up on my screen here. Okay, there we go. Since the last meeting, we've had North Environmental go out and take a look at the proposed replication area and come up with some more details. Maureen from North Environmental is with us here as well. With Doug Deschain. So I'd like to, at some point, hand it over to Maureen to go over her findings, and then also discuss some of the updates that we've made to the plans and submitted to the planning board. Jeremy from the engineering department has reviewed the plan several times. There are a couple of minor issues that we're working through. I spoke with Jeremy today, and we're going to follow up with another phone call tomorrow to square away some of the minor details. Matt, if you could bring up the plans that were submitted recently to the planning board. Some of the things the planning board asked us to look at was trail connections to the plan. So we did provide a primary trail connection, which is a heavy dashed line right at the bottom. Next page. We can zoom into where the infiltration system is. Funny, I'm moving my mouse, but it doesn't affect what you see. You can see the heavy dashed line. That's a trail connection from the road. It's basically at the bottom of the hill of the roadway. It'll go through the open space parcel B, then it'll traverse a access and utility easement over an adjacent parcel, and then off into the northerly open space parcel that abuts the town property. The other connection we've made is at the end of what we're showing here is a future footbridge. We are not proposing to build a footbridge at this time. However, one of the members of the planning board thought it would be a good Eagle Scout project. But again, we're not proposing to build a footbridge. We're just showing that that would be a good location for the footbridge because that's the narrowest spot of the wetland. If we continue the trail could continue to the right, which is the east, it would connect to the town of Westford Conservation Commission land, and there's ample opportunities to cross the stream in a much narrower location, wetland location. In fact, if you follow it further to the east, it actually disappears underground. So it's plenty of opportunity to connect up in there. And then if you go to the end of the cul-de-sac, what we've done is provided a strip of land between lots 3 and 4, which is actually going to be common land, and propose a trail connection there, which would be at the end of the sidewalk, which would allow the folks from the development to get into the conservation land at that location as well. So that would provide a loop connection all the way through. So those are the main features that the planning board asked us to look at. One of the items that Jeremy is concerned with is the drainage connection at the proposed wetland crossing. And Matt, if you could go down and zoom in on that proposed box culvert. Originally, we had a manhole just outside the box culvert. You can see where DMH2 is. That was more towards the center of the road initially, and then it would just discharge into the box culvert where we're already disturbing the wetland. And then there would be a channel created into the new channel that's going to be created with the removal of the existing 30-inch culvert. Jeremy's concern at that point was that there would be no way to go in underneath the culvert and access the end of that culvert for maintenance. So what I've done is I've moved the drain manhole all the way over to the edge of the roadway and then also angled the pipe so that it comes out roughly 4 feet from the end of the box culvert. Again, this is the area that's already going to be disturbed, so there won't be any additional disturbance, and it's easily accessible from the end of the box culvert, which has actually been increased to 15 feet wide, and there'll be about 4 feet of clearance underneath there. So it'll be fairly easily accessible from that location. Jeremy is still concerned at that location that you still would be not able to see it readily available. You know, from the street view, you'd have to actually go down and look at it. So he would rather have the outlet come out the side into the wetland, but that would result in require us to dig an extra channel in the existing wetland to connect it over to the main stream. I'm proposing to do it this way because I want to minimize the impacts to the wetlands. Jeremy just asked that I run it by you to see what you prefer. I think there's no issues with mine. You're looking at a piece of pipe from drain manhole 2 to the box culvert that's probably 5 or 6 feet long. You can access it from in the manhole, and it's easily accessible from the end of the box culvert as well. I know Jeremy and Matt had a brief conversation about this too. I don't know if Matt wants to add anything at this point.
No.
Okay. So we'd like some feedback from the commission on that as well. And then lastly, I'd like to turn it over to Maureen to discuss her assessment of the replication areas and what she feels is appropriate. And so Maureen, take it away.
Can we just, before we go to her, can we just discuss let's just discuss the box culvert.
Okay.
I think it's probably, everyone would agree, we're trying to minimize anything to the resource area. So I think we would agree with Mark's plan to move that to the wall of the culvert. Everyone agree with that?
Yes.
I agree with that, but Jeremy's concern was that he couldn't see it or it wasn't accessible, or?
He's concerned that it wouldn't be visible from the roadway, where if there was an issue, you'd be able to readily identify it. But
Him readily identifying it, or what type of issue?
What, if it got blocked or something, Mark?
Yeah,
erosion mostly. If there's any erosion and the riprap needed to be updated, it's an extremely small flow coming out of there anyway, because it's only picking up the very front, 300 feet or so of the roadway, and there's no other areas coming in. So it's just the paved area that's going into that. It's
Is this a road that's being taken over by the town?
No, this is going to be a privately maintained roadway. So there'll be a homeowners association that's going to be responsible for.
And so, okay, so the homeowners association should be looking at this anyway to be making sure there's no erosion or any issues.
Right, and that would be within the stormwater operation and maintenance plan as well.
That was my question, with if it would be in the O&M.
Yes.
Okay. So it's in there. Okay, so does everyone agree with Mark's assessment on this?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's on the
Okay,
plan.
Mark, that's good.
Okay, thank you. All right, Maureen.
Hi, good evening, Maureen Harold, Norse Environmental. So I'm very familiar with this project. I flagged the site and reviewed it with Carol. Mark had asked me to take a look at the wetland replication areas. And as you can see on the plan, there's 3 different wetland replication areas that we're proposing. One is near the entrance of the roadway. It's 547 square feet. The second one is between wetlands flag 4B to 7B-1. And then we have a larger wetland replication area between 8B and 14B-1. I was a little bit concerned about the 2 areas that are adjacent to the existing culvert that goes beneath the driveway right now. On the northerly side of the roadway, we do have a stand of Phragmites. And we certainly do not want to spread that awful invasive plant. So I had suggested to Mark that we eliminate the small wetland replication area, the 547 square feet near the entrance, as well as the second area between 4B and 7B-1. Plant, I know many of you are very familiar with it. It spreads through rhizomes underneath the ground and stolons above the ground. And I just don't want to put the replication area that close to it if we can avoid that. So I believe the commission has a copy of the draft wetland replication report. And I am proposing that we use one large replication area between 8B and 14B-1. So the project is proposing to alter, what is it? 2000. Oh, geez. Thank you. And we're providing over 3,500 square feet of wetland replication. So we're providing a 1 to 1.5 ratio from wetland alteration to wetland replication. We're proposing a number of trees in this area, a number of different shrubs, specifically berry type shrubs like high bush blueberry, winterberry, as well as some other species that are found within the wetland, arrowwood and dogwood. We're going to provide a wetland seed mix to initiate the growth of the replication area, as well as the normal requirement of monitoring it for a minimum of 2 years. Replace any tree or shrub species that fail to take.
So I've taken a look at Maureen's suggested plant list and the spacing, and I just sketched something out this afternoon. I don't have anything ready to submit yet because we're waiting for feedback from the commission. But the way it works out, there was going to be 11 trees planted, you know, of the 3 species that Maureen recommended, and also a total of 25 shrubs that were going to be planted at the spacing. Which would include all of the ones that are in her list, various numbers. The most predominant one was going to be the arrowwood, but there would be a handful of the other ones as well. So, you know, I think it provides a good density between that and the wetland seed mix. We're going to have a pretty diverse replication area, and hopefully far enough away from the invasive species that it will remain intact and not be inundated by the invasives.
How many trees are you going to have to take out to do this replication area?
Well, this is a forested area, as I know many of you know, and there's a number of large pine trees within this area. Mark, do you happen to have a count on that, or?
There's an 18-inch, or I think 2 24s and a 36, and they're, you know, like Maureen said earlier to me, that they're pretty much at the end of their life. They are pretty old. In fact, I think 1 or 2 of the trees that I located might be dead. I was looking at the base of the tree and I didn't look upward, but I looked up afterwards and there wasn't much up there. but I didn't identify which ones were dead or not. But there are 13 trees that I've specifically located. I did a detailed topographic survey of the area as well to get the exact elevations. So there will be some grading that needs to get done so we can get the ground surface down near the groundwater elevation that's in the adjacent wetland. And when we do that, we're going to have to remove the existing trees. The biggest trees were the pine trees. There were a couple of other trees in there, maybe 8 or 10 inch, but I think we'd have to remove those and replace them.
Eric?
I remember being out at the site visit with you, Mark, and I remember standing up amongst the tall pines. And I thought when we were out on the site visit at that time, I saw where the leaching field was going to be for the subdivision, but I thought primarily where we were standing in those areas were areas where we were trying to save those pine stands. And now from what I'm hearing, that may not be the case.
Well, there's a couple of pines that are down closer to the edge of the wetland where we're not going to be doing as much grading. It could be possible to save those. I'm not sure. I mean, at the time, we thought we might be able to save them. And we still may be able to save them when we go out there. I'm just not sure if they really make sense from a wetland standpoint to be in there. I defer to Maureen for that if they're appropriate for a replication area.
So more often than not, you do find pine trees in a wetland, even though it's classified as an upland plant. The tricky part with the pine trees is they have a fairly shallow root system. As I'm sure most of you are aware, if you walk past a blown over pine, the roots are really pretty shallow, especially near a wetland area. We can certainly make an effort to save the pine trees, but we're gonna have equipment in this area and we're gonna be excavating down the upland to the wetland elevation.
I mean, in our discussion, I don't think you were there at the site visit, but when we were looking at like I'll call it somewhat hummocky topography in there and what have you, and we were looking to areas where, maybe we could enhance existing wetland, but leave as much of the forest as we could in there and try to work around that. And that was the discussion at the time. And, it wasn't like, well, we're just going to clear some stuff out of there because this is what we need to do our wetlands replication. So I remember at the time being out the site visit, there was talking about doing a little bit more, having a better understanding on the hydrology and the ability to successfully, do wetlands replication in and amongst that forested area. But I mean, the intent was to minimize removal of that.
We could definitely take a look at it. Maureen, the question I have for you is, does the shallow root system of the pine trees, will that have an effect on the wetland shrubs that we would be planting as far as taking water away from them?
No, that won't so much have an effect. I think I'm more concerned about when we actually excavate down to the water table to establish the wetland replication area, that we're going to damage the roots of the pine trees. And if they don't get damaged by the equipment, the roots may get damaged and they may die or get subject to insect or some sort of disease. I mean, we can certainly make the attempt to save them, with the understanding that they may get damaged given what we need to provide for the replication.
I'll take that into consideration, Eric, when I finalize my detailed plan. And what I could do is put like a no disturb zone around some of those trees of 20 feet or so. So we stay well away from the roots and create.
And the reason I say that is right now you're like, okay, I don't want to do my wetlands replication at the front where we're putting in the box culvert because, we don't want to have intrusion of Phragmites into that area. I'm like, okay, I hear what you're saying, but because we're not doing it in those areas, we're moving up into other areas and we're increasing, I believe, replication in those areas to the detriment of the forest. So I'm like, I'm trying to weigh which is more important.
So the Wetland Protection Act requires us to do a minimum of 1-to-1. So we alter 1,000 square feet, we need to replicate 1,000 square feet.
I get that. And typically in Westford, we want, 2-to-1. So,
Okay.
I mean, typically, and here you're at 1.5-to-1. So I get all of that. I'm just looking at what's being proposed and I'm just trying to, I understand what you need to achieve. I understand what we're needing to achieve. I understand what you're saying as far as getting down to the water table to be able to, ensure that your replication areas are going to take. And I'm thinking, okay, I currently have pines in the wetland resource right now. And I mean, why can't I be putting additional plantings and other things and doing that and leaving the pines there instead of digging down to the water table to do other sorts of replication when I currently have the pines pretty much in the wetland areas. I just can't understand why we just can't be, working around those areas since they're already in the wetland and just further increasing that and bettering that habitat.
I think
that's not quite considered replication, but
Right. Well, I mean, I think we can make every effort to work around the pines and try and save them. I don't think that's the issue. I think the issue is if we're given any sort of flexibility in terms of if a pine does get damaged, hypothetically, or the roots get damaged, do we have the flexibility to take that pine down and replace it with another tree? I don't know.
I think what we're here tonight is to just talk about how we're going to be constructing the replication area. We did come up with, an idea and an initial draft of what we're going to be planting there. We understand your concern for not wanting to destroy a forest area just to create, replication area when we could possibly retain both of them.
Well, that was the discussion at the site visit at the time. So, I just want to follow through with that.
Right. No, I understand. And, I think I don't know what other trees are in that area. I just know there's like 3 pine trees in that area. I don't know what the other ones are. Didn't have leaves
So
on them.
maybe we take another look and figure it out a little more.
Yeah, we can identify the trees that are there and, determine whether or not they can be saved based on, how much excavation we need to do. Like I said, this was just kind of a draft so we can talk about where we're going with this. I think what we'd like to have at least is an agreement from the commission that the 2 other replication areas that we're proposing is okay to be eliminated. And then we can just work and focus on this one and get all the details down that the commission will need to make a decision. Obviously it's just a discussion right now, but if we provide the commission with all the details, the trees that we're going to remove, the trees that we're going to save, and then the additional plantings that we're going to be doing and put it on a larger scale plan so we can all take a look at it and say, yeah, this makes sense or it doesn't make sense or do this and do that. I think that's what we're looking at for guidance so that next time we can come up with more details to show you guys.
Sounds reasonable.
That sounds reasonable. Yep.
That works.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other issues we have to discuss tonight? That's it, right?
Any other issues? No?
Any comments from the audience on this? Matt, I don't see any raised hands, do you?
Neither do I, Mr. Chair.
Okay. So how much time, Mark, do you want to come back?
Well, our next meeting with the planning board is February 1st. So if we could come in, I could have something ready next week for submittal for the following meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
That will be January 27th. So can I have a motion to continue this to January 27th at 7:30?
So moved.
Second,
All in favor? Eric,
yes.
Marilyn,
Yes.
Margaret,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Noel,
Yes.
and Ann,
Yes.
and Peter, yes. Okay, you guys, we'll see you in 2 weeks.
All
Thank you,
right,
Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Good evening.
Yep, I do.
Take care, Doug.
Thanks.
Okay, we're going to move on to our next agenda item, which is a continuation of a public hearing for Franklin 31 Bridge Street. I think Chris is here.
Yes, I'm working on it, Mr. Chair.
There we go. Hello.
Hi, Chris.
Hey, Chris.
Sorry, I
Oh,
was
Chris,
napping there for a minute.
have you gotten any farther along?
Not really. I contracted with Valley Green Landscaping to deal with cleaning up a majority of the spots since I have been unable to get to it or get anything done. You know, and they're going to take care of it because every time I delved into it, I keep finding more railroad ties or something else, and I just don't have the ability myself to clean it up properly. So I talked to them after our last discussion in November, and they said we discussed what we wanted to get done and how we're going to get to it. You got the heavy snow almost immediately after that in December, and earlier this week I was trying to get a hold of Valley Green, who's right down on Broadway Street, Bridge Street, anyways, and see what they could do or what they could get started. That's been about the long and the short of it.
Okay, yeah, I mean, because we just want to see some progress getting into the spring here. With
well, the ground's hard enough, so there's things we can get into without not tearing it all up, and that it's always been so wet down there.
Yeah,
we got a fair amount of stuff, late spring or in the summer, pushed up and cleaned out along a bunch of those edges. Where the lack of a better incinerator, the water tank, that's all been pretty much attended to. The only thing we've got over there left to go is really that husk of a vehicle frame to get out. Everything else has been pretty much attended to over there. It's the downstream a little bit further where the water goes. Where the container is, etc. There's a fair amount of, every time I delve into that, it seems like something else keeps, something else is there, and it just adds, it keeps one thing after another. And that's why I asked them to come in, because they have the ability to get rid of the things. They have the equipment to reach in and pull things out without disturbing too much of the area. And that's the goal there.
Okay, so do you think, within the next 30 days, they're going to be able to get in there?
I think we'll be able to get some things done. Hopefully get the vehicle husk or frame, that frame that was sitting in the towards the Graniteville Road side of the property. And I'll see what I'll contact them in the next, I'll see them tomorrow or the day after. And I'll let Matt know what their time frame is, and he can relay that to you if that's okay.
That's fine. So, we'll reschedule you in 4 weeks to see where we're at.
That'd be wonderful. Thank you.
Okay. That makes sense to everyone?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So can I have a motion to continue the public hearing to, where are we on, February 10th?
February 24th, or, February 3rd, Mr. Chair. Sorry.
February 10th. We're going to give them 4 weeks.
Thank you.
Yep. Motion?
So moved.
Marilyn?
Second,
All in favor, Eric,
yes.
Marilyn,
Yes.
Margaret,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Noel,
Yes.
and Ian.
Yes.
Yes, okay, great.
Thank you, board.
Yep,
So-
thank you.
Thank you.
And yourself.
Okay, our next agenda item is a continuation of a public hearing for Lynn, 44 Lawson Road. They've asked this to be continued to February 24th meeting. So can I have a motion to that effect at 7:30?
So moved.
Second,
All in favor, Eric,
yes.
Marilyn,
Yes.
Margaret,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Noel,
Yes.
Ian, and Peter, yes, thank you. Okay, we're going on to discussion items. The first one is Lawton Farm License Agreement. We had a copy of that. Is anybody here for that?
No, Mr. Chair, I reached the homeowners association or members of the trust who we've been in contact with, wish to discuss that at a later meeting as their council had not had time to review the comments from town council.
Which were extensive, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So should we give them 2 weeks or 4 weeks?
I would do 4 weeks, and I can coordinate with Mr. Carroll, as I think sometimes he has trouble attending these meetings.
Yeah, okay, so can I have a motion? Okay, we'll just put this on for February 10th then, okay? Discussion item.
Okay.
Okay, the next one is proposed accessible trail at Grassy Pond. I sent this out. I don't know if you guys had a chance to look at it. It was just a general concept plan. It came from, I guess it was a combination of the Pedestrian Safety Committee and also the new, what do we call it? Accessibility Committee. So it's just a concept, and what they want to try to do is, instead of putting the sidewalk along the road, they want to put the quote unquote new sidewalk. What I'm not sure what that's going to consist of, but it would go along the top of the ridge along the edge of Grassy Pond. So we would then have a direct handicap accessible trail that would go along part of the property, and so. The concept here is that it would be minimal amount of work because that grade there is pretty flat up on the top of the ridge. Get close to the pond, there's more of a slope, and it would require a lot of work to put in something that would be level enough for it to be handicap accessible. So I just wanted to show this to you guys, and I told them to go ahead and if they want to start working on it, that would be fine. I just want you guys to know that, they're starting to look at this.
Okay.
Marilyn?
I just want to say, I think it's a great idea, and it's the first of its kind. And
Exactly, right.
It's really special. I'd love to see this happen.
Okay, that's all I have on that. Okay, our next one is O'Brien Farm Boardwalk, request of support from the Conservation Trust. And I know Charlie's here. And Dave, okay.
Promoting.
Okay. Can you hear me now, Peter?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, good. And I believe I have joined, I'm scheduled to have joined with me David Everson as president of the Westford Conservation Trust, and Dan Simpson, assistant director of stewardship with Sudbury Valley Trustees.
Good evening.
Evening.
We confirm that they're here.
Yes, they've been promoted.
They're both here.
They should be able to speak as such.
Appreciate the opportunity to visit with you folks again. I'm not quite sure how much detail we need to go in the presentation, given the material that we sent. Whether you want to go to Q&A or give a little
I think we can go right to Q&A. I think you guys
Yeah, we looked
sent
at
us everything that, you know, all the details there.
Look good.
So,
Okay,
I
should
mean,
I just,
we've been looking at this project all along. So as you know, it's been talked about before, and, you know, this looks great.
right.
Yeah.
Just if I could clarify a couple of things in terms of where we view our objectives for this meeting. Because there's a couple of modifications that have come up that I just want to bring to your attention. One is that we are asking for the commission to be a co-sponsor for the CPC application, and also to provide a letter of support for the CPC. And then, and Dan might want to enter into discussion of this at some point, but the Mass Trails application, initially we outlined that it would be a co-application between Sudbury Valley and the commission. And Dan's pointed out that the application for the Mass Trails, the new application, has only one space for the applicant. So we're asking that the town Conservation Commission be the applicant for the Mass Trails. And the one other item that I thought we should bring up that's not on our list was that it would appear to us, and from some of our discussions, that if we go through with this, with the CPC and Mass Trails, that the appropriate way to handle the financial end of it would be through the town. And Dan with Sudbury Valley has indicated that he'd be willing to work with the town as it relates to the Mass Trail, the billing and that type of thing. So that's the four things that I've got. I don't know if that's as clear as it needs to be, but
Yeah, well, that would make sense that the town would apply for the trail grant, and you know, generally you put up the money up front anyways. So yes, I mean, we would just go ahead with the CPC application, and you know, if we got the grant, that would be great, and we'd get reimbursement that would go back to CPC.
Actually, it's a matching grant, so we would be relying on the CPC as the match for the Mass Trails grant.
Yeah, right. But I mean, the total project's only 30,000, right?
Right, 34, I think, 30.
Yeah, we would just go to CPC and ask for the 30,000.
Oh,
right
I
up
see.
front.
Sorry,
Okay.
gotcha.
And then if you got the grant, if they gave us 15,000, it would go back into the CPC fund.
Great.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Marilyn?
I would just say, sitting on CPC, that inside your grant application, you would indicate that. So it would show that you had really done due diligence in looking for funds to even replace the CPC money. Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay.
Okay, are you clear on that, Dan?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Dan, do you know what the timeline is on the state trail grants?
It's due on February 1st. I've been working with Charlie for a few weeks now, and it's I think we have it nearly complete. So if you
Awesome.
like the idea of this, I would be happy to work with Matt or whoever you wanted to delegate to polish it up so that it meets your expectations. And I think it's pretty close to good to go.
Okay, so yeah, work with Matt, and I'll oversee him, so
Great.
we can get this done by February 1st. Okay.
Yeah, we're in good shape, both with the CPC app and with Mass Trails app.
Okay, so you're putting the CPC together too. Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess we just need a motion to be co-sponsor of the well, of both of them, and to actually apply for the grant.
I think this is a great project. Long time coming, this bridge. It'll really improve the access to all of the property instead of just to have two parcels. So it'll be really nice.
Yeah.
I'll make the motion that we co-sponsor the applications for the CPC, and we'll also do the filing for the Mass Trails.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor? Eric?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes.
Margaret?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Noel? Ian?
Yes.
And Peter, yes. Okay, you guys.
Right, thank you very much. Appreciate it all.
Thanks so much.
That was an amazing meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, 2 Dutchman Lane, request to work after December.
Mr. Knapp? TJ, are you there?
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi. Do you want me to read this?
Or just brief summary of what you're asking and
I'm sorry. Yeah, this is 2 Dutchman Lane. And basically the homeowner and I would like to get moving on it. And basically because of the lack of winter, the back grading on the property, that we feel we can do it this time of year with your permission. And that's basically it. And then kind of like my company in a sense has been kind of hit hard. So we're trying to keep up steady work going on. And that's pretty much it.
So this is for the pool house, right?
Correct, which is
and just all manner of what it takes to build the pool house, foundation, building the pool house, etc.
So the excavation is going to be the only part that affects any runoff towards the wetlands, because once that's done and we can backfill, it's going back to normal grade right there. And you guys have already developed a plan where we'll put all of our equipment, all the extra soil for the time being. And then, like I said, once the excavation is done, it's going to be all cleaned up first of all, and then we'll continue to work as normal.
If I remember correctly, it was pretty flat there, the grade.
Correct.
Any other comments from the commission? No? You guys want to approve this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Motion then.
Motion to approve.
I'll second it.
All in favor, Eric?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes.
Margaret?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Noel? Ann?
Yes.
And Peter, yes. Okay. You're all set.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Yep. And we're moving on to the next agenda item, which is a Kersey Circle gift update. That's coming from Matt.
I just wanted to briefly update the commission. Spoke with the consultant and the surveyor who did the work for us.
Sorry, I had to get put up there for a second. Did I miss anything? Any questions towards me?
They're still working with the homeowner. The abutting property, I think it's at 18 Kersey, to finalize the portion of the parcel of the lot, the parcel that would be gifted, that they would be receiving, and the portion that the town would be accepting as access to the Adams property. So hopefully we'll have something a little more final in the next 2 weeks. Most certainly 4. I spoke with them this afternoon.
Okay. Maybe then we can have the trust map out the new trail. And okay. We got a request for a certificate of compliance from O'Neill, 124 Oak Hill Road, 3341681.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd recommend the commission issue the certificate of compliance. The project was significantly completed, and looking back through the project file, Carol had gone out, I think August or September 2019, and had recommended the property owner close out the certificate of compliance then. But the request recently came into us. So I performed a site visit. Everything looks stable. The property looks well kept. They're adhering to the snow storage areas, and I'm comfortable issuing the certificate of compliance.
Okay, motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, Eric?
Yes.
Marilyn,
Yes.
Margaret,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Noel, and Ian.
Yes.
And Peter, yes. Okay, we're on to the minutes. November 18th. We got any changes? No changes. Wow. Impressive. Impressive. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from November 18th?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, Eric,
Yes.
Marilyn,
Yes.
Margaret,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Noel. You're on mute, by the way, just so you know.
Yes.
And Ian, you keep raising your hand. And Peter, yes.
Relive.
Right. Minutes from the December 9th. Any changes?
Nope.
Wow, the minutes are getting good, aren't they?
Wow. Telling you.
Motion to accept the minutes from, approve the minutes from December 9th.
So moved.
Second.
Eric,
Yes.
Marilyn,
Yes.
Margaret,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Noel,
Yes.
and Ian.
Yes.
And Peter, yes.
Quick-
Okay, anything else? Do we have to record? There's been no site visits, right? Matt, you got something else?
No, I had just a question on the commission's preference regarding the minutes. Do you prefer having the line numbers on the side, or is that something that could be done away with?
Marilyn?
I had asked Matt, I've never seen minutes like that except when someone's working on them.
Yeah,
None-
right.
And none of the minutes that we have in the vault or anywhere show those. So certainly the minutes that come to be filed at town clerk's office can't have that. I personally find them a distraction. I think I'm not sure, but I think they're designed to quickly say, okay, on line 30, you have to change such and such. But I really
Right.
don't think our minutes are that convoluted. I personally would like not to have them on there, but that's what I asked Matt for. So it's up to you.
Margaret's agreeing with you.
Permanent ones.
All right, so
Yeah, I agree. They do not help me at all.
okay. So we'll get rid of them.
Thank
Won't
you.
have them on there. Thank you.
Okay. All right, anything else? Anybody got anything else?
Tomorrow's signatures. I won't be able to make it tomorrow afternoon.
Oh,
When are you there, Matt? Because I have homeschooling and then some Zoom meetings.
I'm in town hall all day, so I'm in town hall all day. I could have everything ready by 10:30, 11 o'clock, if that works with you.
I don't get home till 11:30 from homeschooling. So if I'm there by 11:30, 12 o'clock, that's good for you. That works? Okay.
Yes.
I'll make a note on my mirror. Okay.
Margaret?
I'm out of town. I won't be able to be there tomorrow afternoon. I could be there Friday if you need my signatures for stuff.
Just
what do
need
we-
4.
As long as you got 4.
So what's the regular time for tomorrow?
1 o'clock.
Okay.
Are we
And-
still gonna do the 1 o'clock? I can make the one.
I'll be late. I'll be more towards 1:30, Matt. So
Okay, yeah, I mean, if it works better for Eric and Ann 1:30, the picnic table is now clear of snow and
for now.
sunshine never hurt anybody.
Yeah, I got a 2 o'clock Zoom, but if you want to do 1:30, I'll just be in and out.
Yeah, I mean, Eric, I can be there at 1:15 and
Okay.
we'll have it ready for
Okay,
you.
that'd be great then.
Sounds good.
And Matt, I'll come into the building for you. You don't have to come out.
Great, thank you.
Okay, motion to adjourn then.
Second.
All in favor, Eric,
Yes.
Marilyn,
Yes.
Margaret,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes, good night.
Noel,
Yes.
and Ian.
Yes.
Okay, night, everybody. Thanks.
Night.
Bye.
All right.